Here we are, back at the Capitalist Wire.
What's up?
I know, how about it? So, if you took a 30,000-foot view of the Capitalist Wire, you'd see manhood and money. Those are the things that we kind of focus on. And really quick, James, I want to hit Money Minute. And I want you to tell us, what is one of the five landmines, what are one of the five landmines that entrepreneurs step on that causes them to compromise their resources?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I think entrepreneurs fall into is, there's so much entrepreneurism that's happening now where people are working on their own, or they're working in more of like a solopreneur fashion. Mm-hmm. Statistically, this area has grown like hundreds of percent in the last 5 years.
Yep.
Really since 2015, it's been massive. And that's all the advent of the cloud and all these, services. Pretty much everything that a solopreneur runs now is on the cloud. They don't even call it the cloud anymore. They just call it apps or whatever.
People don't need all the resources because they're right there at their fingertip.
Yeah, and 10 years ago, you had to buy servers and server space and have IT teams and all this stuff. Or if you wanted to make an app, it was $100,000 or $50,000. Now you can go buy a service for $9.99 a month, or and have that kind of capability. Yep. So with all these capabilities, entrepreneurs struggle with it would be like, if you were a great, let's say a great sports player, like if you were a great baseball player, mm-hmm. but you never actually had a bat or a glove, and you never actually were on the field. But then when you get on the field, you realize, like, oh my gosh, like I can play. And this is what happens with so many entrepreneurs. They realize they get on the field and they realize, I can pitch, I can catch,
yep.
I can play, I can hit, I can do all these things.
Yeah.
And then that therein lies the biggest problem, is they're not on a team. They're not a part of a system. And so this is what I think is the biggest, if I had to just guess at the biggest downfall that I've seen, is people tend to think that they have to be all things to all people, and they think that they have to learn and do everything. So for instance, if an entrepreneur wants to write a book, they will think, well, I need to write it, typeset it, load it onto Amazon, I need to go out and do all these things. Well, you'll notice that the people who actually make it, more than 90% of the people who actually make it, they leverage other people's, what I call OPX, other people's X, whatever X can be anything, okay? Other people's stuff, you could say it that way. So the real way to grow as an entrepreneur is to understand, what are you good at? What resources do you have? And then what's the whole kind of product or the whole service that you're trying to deliver? And really, if you master the things that you're good at, and you find people or other resources around you that have those things that you don't have, mm-hmm. That is the fastest way to, what I call the fastest way to the cash. So, and you guys have to understand, if you're in entrepreneurism, it might be different if it's like a mission or it's like something you want to do as a passion project. Mm-hmm. But if you're a business, like, you have to make money. And so the fastest way to the cash is how you will stay alive. It's not a coincidence that every entrepreneur who doesn't make it says basically the same thing. If I just had sales,
yep.
If I just had money, if I just had cash, right?
Yeah.
All I need is sales. My product is so good. All
right.
I needed was a client. But that's the exact problem, right? And so the way that you get fastest way to the cash is you have to be really good at, like I said, understanding what you are good at and what you're not good at. And then how do you find those other resources?
Right.
Because basically you have to understand, it's kind of like, I don't know, like a yin and a yang. Like someone else on the other side of the world or the other side of the city or whatever, they actually are good at what you're not good at, right? So let's say like you want to launch your book or something. Well, maybe your book is on how to be an attorney or something like that, right? Or how to go from one type of attorney to the next, and that's right. Your book. Well, how do you let's say you go, well, I know how to write my book or whatever, but I don't know book distribution, or I don't know
Yeah.
I don't have an email list or a contact list of 100,000 lawyers.
Right.
So you can't just go from like your 100 or 200 people that you know and think that you're going to get to 100,000. You have to think like, who has a list of 100,000 lawyers? Well, there's going to be publications, there's going to be CPAs, there's going to be there's going to be YouTube channels that they watch. There's people who basically already have like you could say like they already have another way to say it might be like they already have a pond of fish that you're fishing for.
Yeah. So your ex, locating your ex is half the battle.
Yeah.
Once you know, I don't know anything about distribution, but I know that this guy has 100,000 email lists that I can get for $8.
Yeah.
And that's a good start.
Yeah.
But if I try to cobble together a list of emails, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, another thing, and so people when they start executing on this, they fall short because they go, well, I reached out to a CPA, I reached out to another lawyer, and no one wants to work with me. Well, you got to keep thinking, okay, what do lawyers use? Well, they might use software, they might use whatever, right? Well, golly, there is lawyer software, there is lawyer accountants, there is you know what I mean. There are people who market to lawyers. There's lawyer marketing companies.
But that's that's the thing. They stop. I already tried that. And then they're starting to get this black cloud of defeat.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference between the good and the bad, or the good and the not so good entrepreneurs, because the ones that can handle that black cloud, I can't take another no.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that die.
Yeah, I've done 2 deals with sharks from Shark Tank. And when I did this deal with Kevin Harrington, we did this mentoring program. One of the biggest things that he ever told me was, he said, because we were talking about failing cheap, and we were doing this content about failing cheap, and he goes, no, it's not about, I'm sorry, we were doing content about failing fast. And he said, no, it's not just fail fast. He goes, that's like just the beginning. He goes, trust me, you want to fail cheap. And I was like, that's a very good point. He's like, if you can fail, because like failing fast, like, he's like, usually when you start failing, like it happens. You fail.
Right.
But he's like, can you fail cheap? Because he's like, man, if you can fail cheap, then that allows you to have enough resources, money, energy, whatever, to go to the next one.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. Like, entrepreneurship is not about can you win, it's about how fast can you fail and how many times can you fail. And especially if you're new in entrepreneurism, if you're a new author, or if you're new whatever, like, it's not about like, can I actually win? Like, you have to understand, you have to fail at the rate of a venture capital backed company that had 30 million. Like, when we started Telenav, we had, I think, 30 million, 33 million. Like, our rounds were big. But with that kind of money, we could fail hundreds of times a day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Right.
Major failures, like products failing, marketing failing, sales failing, that event didn't work, this webinar didn't work, that we're failing hundreds of times a day as a company. Well, if you're by yourself, you've got to fail hundreds of times a day on your own.
Right.
And so if you're not testing things, if you're not split testing things, if you're not, let me try this guy, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, oh, that website didn't work, whatever. Like, if you literally just try 1 or 2 things and then you just feel like you should quit, or 9 or 10
you're
things
not
you feel like you should
entrepreneur.
quit, this game's not for you, right? It's about how many times can you quit. And you have to have that mentality that every time you fail, you're actually statistically significantly closer to winning. Every time you fail.
I love it. Okay.